Hello, everyone. I all hope with a very beautiful day and a very beautiful afternoon. Today is so beautiful. The sky is up. I'm even very happy that I'm doing my next episode with you guys. I'm just sitting with my mom who's just eating snacks on the other side. We're not exactly alone. So, guys, we'll just have to cooperate and work with how things are and for today. But anyway, today's episode is about Ra, who is an ancient supervillain, a shadow ancient supervillain, and a leader of his Shadow Empire faction known as the Dark Shadow, the most ruthless faction and the most powerful faction within the Shadow Empire, ruled by this shadow villain who seeks to dominate his people and the rest of his kind throughout the sacred universe and throughout the sacred world. Now, in the early centuries, Ra was once a slave and also a servant of another supervillain known as the Notin King. He and the other slaves were forced to dig ancient gold, finding the gold for the Notin King in order for him to supply him with the shadow energy he had collected through all the other civilizations of all the other worlds. In doing so, in doing so, he became more ruthless and more impatient and more very paranoia with the world around him and with the entire sacred world around him. Rod discovered that the Notin King was searching for an ancient element that could exactly disturb the balance of power itself, and even with the galactic balance of power itself, in a very causing a very disturbance in the ruling known universe. Ra began a sinister revolution against the Notin King in order to exactly seize power for the other slaves and for himself. He started the revolution, and in doing so, this revolution led to a group of his followers fighting against the Notin King and the Notins, who are a group of assassins and killers and also war criminals who wage war, who have also become the partners of the enforcers of the Notin King in the early centuries. They waged war with each other. Two fronts fought. The Noten King escaped with the portal when one of his people were enhanced with superpowers and abilities to open portals to other dimensions. Ra wasn't quietly devastated at the loss of losing the Noten King, but he was quietly pleased that the people were free from his ruling and from his slavery and from his servitude. After liberating the one planet from slavery and from conquest and from being conquered by the Notin King and from the other evil forces, Ra became himself the new leader of the planet, started forming an alliance with other powerful supervillains such as the Sacred Children, Bon, who is a former leader of the Order of Darkness, Queen Ivy, Shadow Child, Superior Child, Kane, Shadow Jack, the one I previously told you about on the other video, and you all know who Shadow Jack is. He formed an alliance with these supervillains. Together, they would exactly control the planets that have been conquered, and that they would exactly work together in reconquering the planets and restoring them into their own rights, so that they could liberate any worlds and any civilizations that have been ruled and reconquered from any dark and powerful foe or villain alike. In any case, Ra's alliance with the Sacred Children became ancient and became a very crucial force in the entire sacred world and in the entire sacred universe. In doing so, Ra and the Sacred Children became known to everyone else in the sacred world as a Sacred Circle, a secret and ancient society of supervillains who are dedicated to liberating worlds, planets, and civilizations, and collecting shadow energy and ancient relics and ancient weapons in order to exactly strengthen the Shadow Empire's ambition and their own ambition, and in controlling humanity in a process in doing that and controlling all the worlds and all the civilization. Ra even sponsored the Sacred Children's experiments, such as creating dark magic and dark rituals and dark incantation, hoping that it would strengthen the organization and the society through its power and through its leadership. So for many centuries, Ra's leadership has been the founding and the most practical that made the organization formidable and stronger, and even expanded it over the centuries by fighting wars with all the other heroes and with all the other hunters and with all the other villains. Ra became the most evil and the most ruthless leader of his own faction, even took over from the Shadow Empire faction, from the Shadow Empire faction that he even exactly started to liberate when the Shadow Empire warlords were conquering all the other worlds. He took over all the worlds and all the other planets and started exactly reconquering them for the Sacred Circle so that they could seize control of all the other worlds within the vast universe and within the Sacred Universe. By doing so exactly, the Sacred Circle will start tightening its grip on those worlds and on those planets with the help of their colleagues and the lightened members and the lightened colleagues by creating a cooperative network of sinister foes and sinister villains. Ra came to believe that mankind was ready for the next step that he was eager to exactly proceed with. But his plans were quietly foiled when the Lolo Magic was in power. And as I told you all, when the Lolo Magic was in power, all the supervillains couldn't exactly fight back or couldn't exactly remove their dominance across the known universe and across the sacred world and across the sacred universe exactly, which in other words made things more complicated and made things more complex. Control for the worlds and for the universe and for the sacred worlds became more permanent and more sufficiently important, and the survival of all the worlds and all the species remained complexed and remained obsessed in controlling all the civilization. When the Lolo Magic was in power, Ra only took half half of the power that the Lolo Magic managed to conquer all those worlds. He managed to liberate only a quarter of those worlds and those planets and the factions that the Shadow Empire warlords were in charge. Like cutting half of a cake, he only took half of a cake, meaning half of the galactic power. Because the Lolo Magic was too powerful. Like literally, guys, he was desperately too powerful. For all the other villains to fight and all the other heroes, he was way too powerful. He was too immortal. Very much immortal. He was not exactly the main villain, but his history is read in the sacred history, and he's the most formidable foe. But we'll come to that on another time. Now, Ra only took a quarter of that galactic power, used that power to fill his own empire and to fill his own faction with these people, calling it the Dark Shadow. In doing so, by refilling his Dark Shadow faction of the Shadow Empire, he was able to rule it, created a throne room, even made several bases and individual bases for his organization in society to operate in secret and also hiding in secrecy within humanity. Some bases were scattered on Earth within herbal mountains, herbal urban cities, abandoned towns, and abandoned cities would be the perfect place for a secret society of supervillains to convene and meet and discuss the operations and their plans. Sometimes they even talk through monitors and they convene through conferences by meeting each other to discuss the outbreak of the operations and the need for them to exactly summon more backup and more resources. Now, Ra, able to recollect all the other worlds, use those worlds as bases, and also the central command for his headquarters, for the organization's headquarters, became his home spacecraft, his mothership, became the central command of the Sacred Circle to convene and meet and discuss. Over the following centuries, Ra and the Sacred Circle convened at the central headquarters of their headquarters to talk and discuss the outbreak and the flashbacks of the Lolo Magic ruling Universal Man, the prophesized child, and all the other heroes, and Valak Hellfire and the uprising that exactly nearly destroyed the Sacred World in the process without the Sacred Circle's interventions. Ra exactly reassured the members that the plan was in place, that everything else is in order. He even exactly allowed the Sacred Children to continue with their dark witchcraft and with their dark magic, to continue with their experiments, to experiment his followers and to experiment his people, and the revolution he led back then in the early centuries to exactly continue becoming his followers and also his main objectivity for his mission. Within the years when the news of the Lolo Magic's death came passing by throughout the entire sacred universe and throughout the entire sacred world and throughout the known universe, Wa was quietly pleased at the development, very quietly happy that the most formidable enemy has been killed. He was even sitting at the throne room. All the other members were in holograms, and they were all quietly satisfied that the most powerful being, the most baddest guy, has been killed. By what exactly? By the Universal Heroes. And they were quietly not pleased with the results that they were all wishing for. But instead, they decided to move forward with the plan that had been acted, to proceed with a plan. And they proceeded on with the planning to find out more about the Universal Heroes and about this new Universal Man known as Grayson Ferris Unity, who is the son of the previous Universal Man and the previous Universal Woman of the two heroes that were quietly fleeing the home planet that the Lord Magic destroyed. After hearing of the news about the Universal Heroes and all the other heroes, the Sacred Circle started to taking matters into their own, realize that they have to take matters into their own hands, especially with the power vacuum that has consumed the Shadow Empire and its Shadow Empire warlords and all the other factions that are fighting amongst each other. The Dark Druids are turning each other, fighting against each other, trying to seize control of each factions. It's like a sacred conflict that's on the verge of reaching a boiling, massive point and reaching a climax. Tensions are worse than they've ever been within the sacred universe and within the galaxy itself. Not even an intergalactic bounty hunter is even being hired to do the job and to do the necessary needs. By doing this exactly, they've decided that it's time to use the growing fleet of the other shadow commander known as Shadow Commander Shadow, using it to attack the other worlds, which he purposely agreed under Ra's orders. He used the fleet to attack the other planets to find out exactly what the Intergalactic Coalition and the Universal Heroes are up to and what they're planning. And in fact, this attack was a stall attack to actually stall the heroes and the enemies from liberating all the other worlds from the control of the other villains and from the other foes that the other sacred societies of villains might be competing against each other, since it is a competition to seize power from the other societies. And it's quietly it is, and the Universal Heroes and all the other heroes alike are caught up in this war between the evil and evil, bad guy and bad guy fighting each other, and they are trying as best as they can to neutralize the threats and all the adversaries with everything else they have. Now, with the situation quietly reaching a boiling mass, they used this growing fleet to attack the other worlds. The Intergalactic Coalition and the Universal Heroes intervened, stuck to their word. They'll protect the other civilization. Universal Men and the other Universal Heroes managed to neutralize Commander Shadow's fleet and managed to neutralize him. Before Commander Shadow was slandered in death, he passed on a message to the Sacred Circle and alerted them that the Intergalactic Coalition and the Universal Heroes and the Universal King and all the other heroes are in collusion with one another and that they are all working together. So Ra was quietly not exactly pleased with the news. He learned that heroes like these were only giving us much more trouble, and he learned this lesson from the Lolo Magic when the Lolo Magic was trying to expand his empire and also his entire ruling faction and his ruling force. By doing this exactly, Ra and the other members of the Sacred Circle started to take matters into their own hands, realizing that heroes like these can cause them a lot of trouble and a lot of a nuisance, and they had to take matters to themselves. They started hiring an intergalactic bounty hunter from Zandak's fleet, from the Shadow Empire, from the Shadow Empire's fleet, from Zandak's fleet, who is a Shadow Empire bounty hunter, and Zandak's bounty hunters have agreed to comply with the anonymous tip-off from this anonymous client, and they exactly agreed to finish the bounty in killing Universal Man and Newborn and Werewolf Boy. The killing didn't quite go as planned, and the results didn't come out as they expected to. But the result of this hiring of this intergalactic bounty hunter was to find out exactly how many heroes are in collusion and how many more of them are in the team, and are they in are they coordinating together as with the other heroes, with the fire heroes, water monster, and other world heroes and other united heroes. It came back to them that the bounty hunter may fail this mission, but Queen Ivy made sure that the bounty hunter was quietly known as successful, but she was quite pleased with the results. But she only told Ran, informed Ra, that the whole reason of that bounty was to find out exactly how many of them were in that team and how many more of them are they still possibly recruiting each other. By doing this, Ra came to believe that the universal heroes must be neutralized no matter what. So he started by initiating phase 2, creating an entire army and a fleet of an armada, an anonymous armada from alien fleets to start attacking the intergalactic coalition and waging war. What he wasn't well aware of, that the Dark Druids and the Dark Witches and the Dark Faithful, who are still helping Nebula Bringer with their own plan and informing the Order of the Five, another sinister society of supervillains, who are also deciding the fate of humanity, was on the verge of destroying the intergalactic coalition and crushing it at that exact same moment. That's what they didn't realize. So it became a war zone from two fronts. Both sides suffered heavy casualties, enormous casualties, and not even any other of the other Dark Druids and the other Dark Witches and the modern alien soldiers managed to survive from the intergalactic coalition. The Universal Heroes and the Sacred Council and the Four Nation Council were distraught over the news that this attack was a very different attack, and this was a very whole surprising attack that they managed to encounter and everly seen. After the mission failed from hiring an armada, Rob decided to take matters to his own hands to exactly deal with Universal Men, but the Sacred Children and Bond reassured him that no, they have to wait patiently and they have to exactly plan the next strategical attack with the strategic attack and with the strategic planning in order to exactly underestimate these heroes and their abilities to exactly stop us with their plans and with their sinister attempts. Despite the risk of this, Rob purposely agreed. On the next monitors, when they conveyed with the other members after learning of the results of the Dark King and his sinister plans to with these galactic dominants as he was planning to exactly unite them and the fall of his plan, Rob was quietly pleased with the results. He decided to inform the other Shadow Empire warlords and told them that they should move forward with the plan of attacking the intergalactic coalition and the universal heroes and all the other heroes exactly by doing so. After doing that exactly, Ra was quietly happy and very quietly and unsuccessfully happy with the results of the mission and very quietly and eagerly surprised of the mission and also the outcome of the results when the heroes neutralized all the Shadow Empire warlords and all the other leaders, and they started interrogating them and asking them questions of who dispatched them and who gave them the order to attack the intergalactic coalition. But they could not answer because of the psychic telepathic link that Ra installed in them in order to shut their mouths up. He psychically shielded their minds and psychically protected them. And if they ever talked or ever spoke, they'll be quietly psychically closed up and they'll be quietly psychically going to a comatose coma. So they never exactly spoke of who dispatched them. Despite this, Ra is very strategic, very, very, very immortal. Infusing with shadow energy made him more immortal than anything in his early centuries, gave him the power of super speed, super hearing, super senses, sensing abilities, and super using an energy sword in order to strike his enemies down, using dark magic as a weapon to fuel his ambition and his goals. Even allowed the dark druids to combine their dark magic with the sacred children to exactly normalize their power and their energy and also their frequent power to combine it to infuse them with dark magic and with dark energy. He was able to wait in the middle of a dark room where all the dark druids and the dark witches and also the sacred children were converging and exactly combining the energy with the dark crystal enough to purposely give him more power and more immortality. With his long gravity, he believed that he is destined to rule the other worlds and the other planets for the sacred circle and for the other sacred universe. His long gravity makes him more powerful and makes him more paranoid and makes him more lethal than anything. He's very skilled in hand-to-hand combat. He fights, he's clever, he's smart, and he's intelligent. When he senses a threat or a foe, and when he realizes that he's out of his game, when an outside player threatens his game, he even formed an alliance with Shadow Jack in order to exactly join his society of supervillains so that the two of them, with the Sacred Children and the other villains, could exactly reclaim the entire sacred universe and the entire sacred world and lead it to prosperity. He is very strategical, even formed a revolution in his early years to fight against the Noten King and his forces and vanquish them, which he quietly did for good, able to use shadow energy and the relics and all the other ancient objects for himself, for his people, and the revolution he created to exactly strengthen his ambition and his goals by reconquering planets, cities, civilizations, worlds, alien worlds and even humanity itself, which he possibly believe he's quietly destined to do. Despite this, he's a very powerful tactician, very powerful, not meant to be underestimated. He even has central headquarters for the organization to function and and also individual bases for them to speak and also talk and convene on abandoned worlds and abandoned planets, even on other worlds and other civilizations such as that. The Sacred Circle functions with Ra as a founder and as a leader, and he's not the only founding member and a leader. The Sacred Children are also the founding members and leaders as well. They work together, they cooperate together with the other members, they work together, they create strategies, movements, plans, and all other sinister plans for humanity, or for the universal heroes, or for the Shadow Empire, and or for themselves. Despite this, Ra is very, very smart and very clever. He knows when to wait patiently, and he knows when to strike when the moment is here. Despite this, he will wait for the right time, no matter what. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this episode and this video. In this video, I hope you all have a beautiful day and a very great day ahead. Goodbye.